Hey guys, welcome back to Bombchu. I'm Austin, and today I'll be covering the Humble Monthly Bundle from November 2016. This month's bundle sticks to the format of 8 games, 7 for Steam, one of those debuting with the bundle, and a smaller experimental bundle exclusive game. That means we have a lot to cover, so let's get to it. I'll be giving my first impressions of each game and determining if they're games I'd like to continue playing. This month's exclusive title is Keyboard Sports: The Final Tribute. I'm not sure how to classify this game. The idea is that each level is centered around your keyboard, and whatever key you press, your character will move to that area on the screen. It starts off simple with tasks like walking around a room, but quickly moves to dodging moving obstacles and platforming. It's a clever idea, and there was a surprising variety in what little I played. I think it could probably be finished in one sitting, but near the end of a level, the game soft-locked and I couldn't continue. I had to reset and it took away a considerable amount of progress, which left me a bit frustrated. I may come back to it after cooling down a bit to finish it later. The debut game this month is Pirate Pop Plus, a Game Boy, Game & Watch style arcade game. The gameplay boils down to pop bubbles with hook-shots. You can only throw one hook-shot at a time, and it'll only go away when it hits something. So you have to make your shots count. There are, of course, power-ups you can earn along the way, like being able to throw multiple long-lasting shots or a blaster, which is extremely useful. In addition, gravity will occasionally shift, throwing you and the bubbles off kilter. If you manage to drop on a bubble, you'll pop it and bounce up, which will allow you to keep popping more bubbles. In terms of progression, there are a few characters you can unlock, and a lot of dumb, fun customization options for the silly interface, like different faceplates, music, or even color schemes. It seems like an option to buy a full color system upgrade, probably for a very large amount of coins, would have been a nice fit. I did run into some trouble at first. I started up the game and I couldn't find a way to enable full screen mode. I closed the game to go look for a config file, to no avail. When I reopened the game, there was no sound. This appears to be a bug affecting others as well. Somehow the sound setting gets turned off after first closing the game. People kept mentioning changing it in the options, but for the life of me, I couldn't find an options menu. For some reason, that menu isn't added to the start screen until after you play your first round of Pirate Pop. I'm sure the developer will patch this before long, but it's something to be aware of. I had fun with this one, but it's a little too simple for me to want to keep playing much longer. I was dreading playing this next title strictly from looking at the name and cover art. Rebel Galaxy. Oh joy. Another open space sim with complicated, confusing controls, where it takes forever to do simple, small things, and menus and interactions are filled with walls of tiny text. If you can't tell, this is really not my genre. On starting it up, I was pleasantly surprised. Controls are simple, the game is built to be played with a controller. Getting started was very easy. Tutorials are short and to the point, and most actions outside of move and shoot are context actions that are assigned to holding a button when you're close enough. Menus are easy to navigate, combat is fun, and a lot of things that normally turn me off about this type of game have been streamlined very well without killing the feeling of being in space. You still have to wait a decent amount of time while warping to another part of the galaxy, stuff like that. Also, the music is great. This isn't usually my type of game, but I really like some of the changes this team has made. I'll likely continue playing. Next up is Styx, Master of Shadows, a fantasy stealth game and prequel to Of Orcs and Men. You play as Styx, a goblin that can speak with humans. Despite coming out in 2014, this game takes more from classic stealth games like Thief and Splinter Cell. The visuals, on the other hand, are very up to date, and combined with the interesting environments, it's quite pleasant to look at. Unfortunately, I didn't really care much for Thief or Splinter Cell. I used to just hate stealth games, but Once I was able to optionally play stealthy in games like Oblivion, I started to see what was great about it. I even enjoy some games that are built around stealth, like the Metal Gear series. However, this game is pretty unforgiving and spikes in difficulty pretty fast. If you're caught by one person, you can fight them pretty easily, but any more than that, and you're likely to be shot dead while fighting or running away. There are checkpoints, but they're more rare than they should be. I kept having to repeat a tutorial because I was dying in a section well after it. Neither the story nor the gameplay drew me in, and I don't think I'll be moving forward with it. But if you like classic stealth games, then you may enjoy this one a lot more than I did. Game 5 is Stardew Valley, the ultimate Harvest Moon fan game. I haven't really enjoyed a Harvest Moon game since the N64 and PS1 days. And luckily, Stardew takes inspiration from those older games in the series and adds a lot of its own twists. There's a ton to do. Your main duty is to take care of your farm, preparing the land, planting seeds, watering them, and harvesting for money. But while I'm tempted to call this the core of the game, I actually find myself only spending a bit of time on my farm each game day. There's a town full of people to form relationships with, fishing, quests, and even combat in the mining area. There's lots more that I don't have time to get into, and even more that I don't even know about yet. Stardew Valley is bright and colorful, and has a calming soundtrack. It's easy to lose a lot of time to this game, as I kept finding myself saying, just one more day, at the end of each in-game day. The developer has put out some big updates, adding things like deeper relationships, divorce, and significantly different farms you can start off with. Co-op is promised down the road, which I'm very excited about. There's a co-op mod available at the moment, and you can see our review of it right here. I already own Stardew Valley, but I love it, and I don't see myself giving it up for a long time. This leads us to Broforce, also known as Freedom Simulator 2014, a side-scrolling shooter with a lot of humor. Your character is random every time you spawn, with tons of possibilities, all broified versions of characters from the biggest action movies like Judge Dredd or Terminator, just to name a couple. There are even female bros like Ellen Ripbro, Cherry Broling, and even the Broad. The over-the-top action is very tongue-in-cheek and fast-paced. Basically, it's really fun and funny. Playing alone is fun enough, but where this game really shines is in the co-op. Sitting down with a friend or two just amps up the laughter with some great moments, like finally getting to use the high five button. I own this game already, but I break it out again every few months for some dumb fun with friends. Next is Cathy Rain, a classic-style point-and-click adventure game. It has authentic low-res art, and I wouldn't be surprised at all if the developer took some inspiration from Wad Jedi and the Blackwell series. Unfortunately, I ran into some technical issues getting started. The game uses a 4:3 aspect ratio instead of 16:9, and when it automatically detected my resolution, it just used the width of my monitor instead of the height. So it immediately failed to launch due to the game trying to run bigger than what could fit on my monitor. Others have experienced this issue as well, and it seems like an odd issue not to fix after this long for how common widescreen monitors are today. Once I got that fixed, I was able to jump in. It's the 90s, and you're an edgy college girl whose estranged grandfather just passed away. You go to the funeral and get in touch with your family that you haven't seen in ages. And if you're wondering what the hook is, I haven't found it yet. In passive conversation, an incident that happened 10 years ago is brought up, but no one seems to know what happened. That would be interesting, but no one seems to care either. My time spent here was mostly spent listening to dialogue and not much gameplay. I love the art and music, and there are some nice modern touches, like interacting with something brings up a Telltale-style circle of all the things you can do with that object. That said, I don't feel engaged in the gameplay or the story. I may try to push a little further to see if things pick up. Maybe it's just off to a slow start. But honestly, I'd rather play Techno Babylon or another Blackwell game. Our final game is Beyond Eyes, a literal walking simulator. Now, I see that phrase thrown around a lot lately, and a lot of games labeled that way I have quite enjoyed, Dear Esther being among them. Whatever your stance, I'm open to a lightly interactive experience as long as it doesn't overstay its welcome. Your character is blind, and the game simulates this for you by making everything a blinding white light until you get close enough to see what it is. What's shown is nice-looking watercolor environment that is pleasant to look at. Chirping birds temporarily illuminate the area around them, showing you that you're spatially aware of sounds around you. My biggest issues with this game involve movement. You walk extremely slow. This wouldn't be a big problem if it was a short distance between story points, but sometimes you have to explore, and it leads to a lot of wasted time. Additionally, despite the ground showing up a few feet in front of you, obstacles only show up when you walk into them, so you may often find yourself walking where you think you need to go, only to be suddenly stopped by a wall that wasn't there a moment ago. There was one point a good chunk into the game where the cat I was following went through a gate. Up till now, buttons hadn't been usable at all. You just interacted with things by walking up to them. I walked up to the gate and nothing happened. So I looked all around for 15 minutes before finally getting ticked off and looking up where to go. Apparently, you press A to go through the gate. A button prompt would have been really helpful here. Moving beyond that point was a much more open area, and after going in circles a few times, I couldn't stomach anymore. I see what the devs were going for, and it was an interesting simulation of blindness, but the game suffers because of it, and it's really hard for me to entertain the idea of playing any further. This was really disappointing to me, because out of all the games in the bundle, I was most looking forward to playing this one. So overall, how was this bundle? I ran into a lot of tech issues this time around. Granted, a couple of those games were just released, and bugs are to be expected, but Kathy Rain has been out for several months. Beyond Eyes was a pretty questionable choice, and I think Humble knew it, because it was the only game in the bundle that they didn't have any emblems of praise for, from any source. I get that they wanted something artistic in there, but there are so many other options out there that would have been a much better fit in my opinion. Most of the games I really enjoyed I already owned, but it's hard to fault Humble for that, considering the size of my Steam library. So how much bang for your buck was there? To total everything up, paying full price, these would all rack up a cost of about $115, the lowest total value in some time. Getting all these at their lowest sale price would cost about $51, $16 less than the games from the last bundle. Still a great amount of savings, assuming you wanted many of these games. Overall, I wasn't too thrilled with this bundle. Lowest bang for buck in a while, and a bit too many meh games. Next month's bundle is looking promising, as it has Dragon's Dogma, which has been on my wishlist for some time. We'll see what else is in there next month. Catch you next time.